I'm starting every single morning with one of the most controversial, vaguely surrealistic, and bizarre prayers that might exist. I call it the punk feminist prayer, and it sounds like this. Dear God, please become a feminist. Dear Allah, you'd rather become a feminist too. Dear Buddha, please become a feminist. I'm not really sure if these guys are really listening to my prayer, and because they might prefer more common ones, and I'm not even sure if I'm not asking for totally unreasonable things, because sometimes I ask God to turn Putin into a radical feminist overnight. However, I will continue praying like this till they will have ears for my prayer. I'm a feminist, and I wasn't born a feminist. I became one. When you publicly say that you're a feminist, there are several assumptions about you. Some of them are wrong, some of them are ridiculously wrong. One of them is that I have a dysfunctional relationship with men to the point that I hate men. Another one is that I have some Freudian daddy issues. There are several other assumptions that I will tell you later about being a feminist. It is true that I'm a feminist and I have a bit more visibility than other women. So in a way, it's totally unfair that it's me standing in front of you and not another woman. Feminism is about and for voiceless women. For those women who are systematically discriminated against, who live in fear, who are reduced to silence, who live in female poverty, and you know, female poverty is more profound than male poverty, who are beaten by their partners. And the darkest numbers that ever exist are the numbers of domestic violence. 62,000 women, Romanian women, have reported domestic violence. For them is feminism. We live in an uneven world, and the biggest difference, it's not between social classes, it's not between races, it's not even between levels of wealth or levels of education. It is still between men and women. We fail to understand that every single experience that we have is either conducted or shadowed by gender. Toys, for instance, create destinies. You wouldn't believe that, right? Some time ago, in a public declaration, I decided to preach Romanian parents for the fact that they seem to not buy the appropriate toys for their kids. Let me give you an advice. Never, but never argue with Romanian parents because they are born parents, gurus in parenting, and obviously very resistant to criticism. So you will not end this battle safe and sound. But my observation was simple. You didn't need to be a feminist to make it, and you didn't need to have any intellectual sophistication to see the things like I saw. When we buy toys for girls, we choose kitchen stuff, plastic babies, sets of spoons and teacups, and sometimes, to my feminist surprise, even cosmetic kits. When we buy toys for boys, we choose strategy games, Lego, soldier-like toys. These are our expectations from gender. So we expect, on one hand, care, maternal values, and looking pretty from girls. And on the other hand, we expect competitivity, strategy, intelligence from boys. Aren't toys creating destinies? At that point, I did not want to declare a war on toys, like some people thought, but to suggest that we create incomplete individuals. And this is wrong. What is also wrong is the fact that we use common expressions like you cry like a girl, you act like a girl, you run like a girl, when we want to give boys a lesson. This is wrong on so many levels. Firstly, it disrupts the relationship between genders from an early age. And secondly, it creates patterns of discrimination. So what we produce are women who are fragile and men who are proto-misogynist. The world is uneven, also because school is creating what I call gendered minds. Mind is not a blank androgynous concept, it's either male or female. From my several interactions with high school girls, they confessed and they told me, I wanted to do robotics or electronics, but my professor told me to choose a girly domain. The same with boys who wanted to choose art or fashion. They were told to choose a different domain. And they ended up, of course, great architects and engineers, but they did not follow their heart. This gender thing happened to me as well, and to be honest, I did not react very well. Actually, I'm quite ashamed by my reaction. I was in high school, and I was an annoyingly good student. I was writing a paper on Kant and Hegel, who are the rock stars of modern philosophy. They are the David Gilmour and Roger Waters of philosophy. It was a good paper, yes. And my philosophy professor told me, Roxana, you did a brilliant work. You have the mind of a man. You write like a man. Well, of course, I was happy. Initially, I felt so brave and creative. My intellectual vanity, probably my favorite feminist scene, was huge. My ego was high. But then I realized, was that a genuine compliment or was it a sexist compliment? Because all I wanted was to have the mind of a woman, to write like a woman, to lead a team like a woman, to cook like a woman, and even to drive like a woman. And then I felt ashamed by the fact that I was happy receiving this compliment because, I felt sexist. And being sexist is not the sexiest thing in the world. The world is uneven, also because on topics that intersect women's lives, men seem to be more entitled to speak. In the Romanian parliament, in the upper chamber, the Senate, there is this commission for Equal Chances. I will not say anything because I'm a feminist, right? And I'm not entitled to see anything odd in this picture. But I'm sure you do. Even in institutions, in structures that seem to be dedicated to women, there are only men. And this, of course, is not happening only in Romania. It is happening also in bigger houses, in bigger institutions. In 2013, I was a proto-Eurocrat. I was working in the European Commission in Brussels, and I was the youngest there. And there was a roundtable on sexual harassment. As you can imagine, 92% from the total cases of sexual harassment are happening when the male is the aggressor and the woman is the victim. I entered a room, and the room was full of men. To be more precise, there were only men in that room. Initially, to be honest, I thought that it's a male meditation room or a battle of masculinity. But no, that was the right room. What was wrong was the fact that I was the only woman in the room. I'm a feminist, and I speak a lot about solidarity. And one of my favorite topics, the one that probably annoys a lot of people, is politics. When a woman is entering politics, she will develop a ridiculous obedience to men. And secondly, she will become more misogynist to other women. I will tell you a secret, and this is probably an outrageous thing coming from a feminist. at times, women tend to be more misogynist than men. For every success that a woman has in her personal life or in her career, or in both, and this is the ideal situation, there is at least one woman who feels frustrated, as if she were totally deprived of that thing. So what we lack is solidarity. And I remember, during my academic years at London School of Economics and Political Science, that I met Hillary Clinton. I admire her, but I also criticize her a lot, so I have this sane distance from my idol. And she told me, our problem is not that we are discriminated against, but that we lack solidarity. And it's true. And one of my favorite quotes belongs to Madeleine Albright, who says, "There is a special place in hell for every woman who refuses to help another woman." Being younger and more optimistic, I have my own version of this quote. And mine sounds like this: there is a special, or there should be, a special place in heaven for every woman who is supporting another woman. And I saw a lot of solidarity when I spent 2 months in a refugee camp in Kosovo, and I met all those amazing women. That was solidarity. The fact that there were women helping each other in all the possible ways that a human being can help another human being. Women helping other women. This is feminism. I am a feminist, and each time I'm saying this, there are several wrong assumptions about me. One of them is that I dislike men. And yes, I dislike men. I dislike misogynist men. But I dislike misogynist women to the same extent. One of them is that I'm a lesbian. Well, I'm not. But even in a country, unfortunately, with a huge homophobic propensity, I would admit if I were a lesbian, because we have to fight preconceptions. Another wrong assumption about me is that I have a dysfunctional relationship with my dad. And this is probably the assumption that hurts me most, because I have a perfect relationship with my dad, and because I was the happiest little girl I've known. Also, my dad is a gynecologist, so you cannot imagine a gynecologist who is misogynist at the same time, right? Another wrong assumption about feminism is that it's a reaction towards beauty. That feminists are unattractive women who label themselves as feminists because they want to capture attention. This is wrong. Feminism is not a reaction of frustration towards beauty, but is a reaction of frustration towards beauty defined in a restrictive way, and sometimes socially imposed. Another assumption about me, well, I will just tell you the answer. I do wax. And as I started my speech with a prayer, and asking you to pray with me would probably be the wildest thing that can happen on a TEDx stage, so I'm not going to do that. I just want to repeat my prayer, because being on a stage, I'm probably closer to God, Buddha, Allah. Dear God, please become a feminist, because otherwise, I'm going to lobby and convince you. Thank you.